Remember the other day when Mr. Redding was talking about the ball cypress in his little pot that's 25 years old. Check this ball cypress out. Look how tall this joker is. It's got to be 80 feet tall and about probably 3 foot in diameter, growing like crazy. And remember he said that they have cypress knees. Well, these are the cypress knees. There's one. There's one. They stick up. They could kind of look like little, like the dwarves on Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, don't they? Little guys sticking up. But remember, he said that's how they get they breathe through these things, cypress knees, and you can actually graft in another cypress tree right on that, and it would grow into a tree if you grafted a limb onto those roots. But all through the swamps of Florida, you have these cypress knees. You'll see them all over Florida. And what they are, you can see how big this tree is. This is my big old cypress tree. And I can't reach around it. I'm trying to, but, you know, take two people to reach around that big old thing. But here's my cypress knees all along the creek here, growing up. And that's how the tree gets it breathes and nourishes itself with all the cypress knees. You can see they're growing all through my aloes down here. There's cypress knees everywhere, and that's typical. Any place you have, the ball cypress trees like that one growing, you're gonna have tons of these little cypress knees coming up. And a long time ago, when I was a little boy, people used to cut these and make beautiful furniture out of them, just like little things you put in your house. But I kind of like this one. Look at this cool. Kind of like Mary and Joseph and the wise men, sort of kind of reminded me of that when I first saw it. And you have all sorts of little cypress knees coming up here and there in the yard down here close to the creek. But it's helping nourish these cypress trees growing along the bank here. My friend Myron Redding, and he's an expert on these bonsai plants. How old is that one?
This one is probably about 20 years.
20 years old. Look at there.
You can see you can see where I've shaped it with wire. I put a little twist in it, and I shaped it around a little bit. Where the top died, the next leading branch became the crown, or the apex. It's been in this pot for about 4 years now.
4 years.
The objective was to grow it, get it healthy, and then pot it.
Now, if you put it out in the ground, would it get bigger?
Yeah, it'll get somewhat bigger, but I mean, it's only traditionally the Procumbens nana is a shrub about 3 foot tall.
Okay.
But this one's been like this now for years. Something you don't see often. This is a Acer sacrum. It's a Florida sugar maple, and this is Janice's. We collected it from the farm. And as you zoom in there and take a look at the trunk, I cut it back to about 6 inches tall, and this is all the new growth. I've had it now, or we've had it for about 5 years. I'm growing it out so that I can use the long ones for cuttings, and then I'll reshape this back into a bonsai. And then again, Procumbens. And then this little guy here, I've had this now about 8-9 years. It's a little Procumbens, juniper, and all Procumbens are. Procumbens is just the name, just means it's small, or nana just means it's small. Procumbens is the variety, and nana is the designation. And it's been in this pot for 5-6 years now. Okay, put this one back up. This is recent. 2 years ago I started this one. Yeah, 2 years ago I started that. And it as well is a Procumbens.
And that's the type of a shrub?
Yes, it's the type of the tree. Now these are Ilex vomitorias. These trees can get tall. Originally, whenever I collected this with a friend of mine, he dug them and I helped him pull them up. They were about 4 foot tall. So, and then these, of course, is the cutting from this tree. And this one I bought a few years ago. And I made it into a bonsai. Now this is a little bit different. It's a parsoni. It's a Procumbens parsoni. It's about 4 foot tall.
Looks kind of like a cypress, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. That's,
The
here,
leaves
I'll
look
just bring it
similar.
around so you can see it a little bit better. Yes, I've been working on that now for almost 10 years.
10 years, huh?
Mhm.
So that's about a 10-year-old. What did it start with?
Just a landscape tree. It was already 8, 10 years old when I got it, so it's around 20 years old now.
20 years old.
You see the wire
Yeah.
to help bend those branches? If I didn't put wire on it, they'd want to shoot up because it's still a young tree. And these are Japanese black pines. These are saplings that I purchased from Indiana, and I've had these for about 3 or 4 years now.
Good for you.
Yeah. So. Also, before I get ready to prune them, I take them out of the water.
So you put him back in a bucket of water?
Yeah, I put him back. There's about 2 inches of water in that pot, and I put him back in that bucket so that now, if I freshly take it out and I go to work on the tree, they're so rigid I could break the branch. But if I give them a couple days, like we just did, they will be pliable enough where I can bend them. Red cedar.
So it's kind of like when people just don't listen to the word, they get hard-hearted, don't they?
Hard-hearted, yes they do.
And God has to do harder things to break them.
Mm-hmm.
when they're soft and young, they're able to be shaped, you know.
Well, yes. Well, that's right. That's the whole point.
They're pliable.
They're pliable while they're young. Most of these trees are young and they're very pliable. This is I think it's a Pinus clausa, sand pine, collected over there behind my friend Jimmy's yard. All these pots are all Japanese black pines. There is one.
What's the
red
difference between their black pine and our pine?
pine. It's shorter.
Shorter.
And the black pine is shorter than, it only grows to about 30 feet, 25, 30 feet. And the needles are more compact. These are all grown from seed. Everything here was grown from seed. Seed or the bigger ones were saplings that I purchased years ago. And I've been working on them. The biggest danger to a pine tree is pine webworm. I've gone through here and I found some. What they do is they don't kill the tree, but they eat all the needles off the tree. So if you catch it in time, you can save the tree, because once you lose all the needles, you lose the tree.
How about the pine borers? Do they come bother you?
Well, I do every year. I go get Bear Systemic, and I feed everything with the systemic so that if something does get in there, I have had pine borer. In fact, I had a pine borer in a beautiful, the complement to that. I had two of the one I just worked on. I had 2 trees, and they were both the same. Pine borers ate one of them up. So.
Yeah, that's a big problem in Florida, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. As you can see, I have so many ball cypress. I meet up, most of these are cuttings that I have. Most all of these were cuttings that I started at some point or another.
So of all your trees, which one's your favorite?
Oh, I love the ball cypress. They're fun, they're easy to use. I like maples too. I have trident maple on the other side over there, but and I've got.
Looks like a maple there, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is actually a sweet gum.
Sweet gum, yeah.
They make excellent bonsai.
My wife doesn't like her sweet gum in our yard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're dirty too.
Pricky balls.
Always dropping those leaves, making a mess.
They're making a mess.
These are all little seedlings that I grew. I put some weed killer, and the roots are so shallow that it affected the trees. This is a red cedar. Collected it years and years ago. The top died out, so what I did was I just bent it back. I had the top way up here, so I just bent it down. That's a drake elm, Florida drake elm right here. This one.
Do you ever grow any of the wild persimmons?
I'd love to.
I got some seed.
You got some seed?
Oh, yeah.
Send them to me. I'd love to. This is a drake elm, grown from a root cutting. I started this 20 years ago, and it needs pruning bad, but I'm just letting it get healthy before I work on it. It'll lose most of its leaves this winter. As you can see where I once again, wire to restrain it. I bent this in shape with wire, and all these branches I wired down to get them into position. And but you got to have that restraining power of the wire to put them where you need them. Otherwise, they'll just grow wherever they want to.
So you use pruning wire? Is that what they call it?
It's just it's a wire, just regular
wire,
wire, bonsai wire. Most of it comes from Japan, but Now these are my little bonsai cypresses. These are my forest group. I started this one last year. All these were cuttings, and I grew them all from cuttings, every one of them. And I made this little forest. The front is right here, actually.
There's some of your grandchildren's toys.
Yeah. I'm hoping one day they'll be glad to. I'm hoping they will. Now this one here is a little bit of a bugger. Let me see if I can get it. It's on a concrete slab that I made. But again, ball cypresses.
Yep.
Have so many ball cypresses, I had to do something with them. I said, okay. Oh, of course, my little one. I started him this year. It was just a wild seedling that was growing in this pot. Planted a bunch of seeds, some came out, some didn't. Okay. And then I have various trees. This is a dwarf Simpson stopper. It puts on berries every year. They turn red, but I have not yet had any of the berries to grow.
Like on a small orange, or can you
Yeah.
make orange trees that you said you can make them that produce? Huh?
Yeah. Look at my pomegranates. There's actually this one has a fruit in it. See it swelling?
Yeah.
Little orange flowers. These are dwarf pomegranates here. My little bitty black pine. This wire is holding him in the pot so he don't fall out. I have animals come through here and turn my pots over. And
There's a guy over in Chiefland that does bonsai. I don't know if you ever met him. I'm not sure if he just sells them or if he does them. I'm not sure. He has you see him out there beside 19 every week.
Okay, wow. I saw a Chinaman one time. That was out there on the side of the road selling them.
Yeah, this is a black dude over there in Chiefland. You have to come meet him sometime.
That's a gumbo limbo. Have you ever seen one?
I have not.
They grow oh, they're huge. I saw one time. The trunk was half as wide as this table. It's
Wow.
huge. Fujian tea. This is a lot of people have trouble growing these, but they grow fine right here in Keystone Heights. This is a ficus. It's actually a banyan fig. A strangler fig. I cut it off. When I was working landscape. 1990. Had been 1991. 2001 had to be when I got this cutting. The last year I was there. And
Now, if you have a cutting, do you how long before you get it in water?
I put it in damp soil.
Like right then. Like if you were somewhere and you wanted to get a cutting, would you just wrap it in a wet cloth till you got home?
Yeah, till I got home. Yeah, or I'll put it in a bottle. Either or. And these are all part of little cuttings that I've been growing for years. They drop down aerial roots. You can see them in there. But these leaves I haven't. Normally this time of year, by July, I would have taken all the leaves off. I didn't do it this year. I'm just letting it get strength. And
my mother would love to come look at this sometime.
I love her too. Look at this hackberry. You ever seen one?
Never have.
Florida hackberry. They grow wild. In fact, I got this off the farm.
Huh.
I sure did. Off the farm, Genesis farm out there. Yeah, that was a cutting from a hackberry. Jacaranda, purple jacaranda, is a bonsai they will not put on flowers, but in the ground they will. This one is probably 5 years old from cutting. So.
It's amazing, my brother.
Well, I've enjoyed sharing this with you guys. Oh, yeah. Wild grape right here. This is a wild grape. Wild grape make excellent bonsai.
Yeah, we have a bunch of those around.
Yeah, oh man, you just take one, you put it in a pot and walk away. It'll grow. They love to grow. I got all these. Oh.